Okay. We should be live. Part 2 of the Trident build. How's everybody doing? Get everybody notified in Discord. There we go. Hard time with the mouse. For this. A little bit of spam, but okay, so we left off, let's see here, having put the corner feet on and most of the Z assembly together, but one thing I did forget last time is to attach the lead screw nuts to the Z carriages, so that's where we're going to start today. So how's everybody doing? Do we have any? We have a few people in Discord.
I have a voice. I'm doing fine.
Awesome. So we are streaming to YouTube as an unlisted video. So there is any opportunity to tweak the stream later. But the idea is I'll make it public shortly after that. So.
When we started the streaming, everybody suddenly went silent.
Understandable. Can anybody who has a chance confirm that the link I sent is actually working and people
You posted in G-chat?
I did.
Yes.
I posted it in a few channels, G-chat and the. So we're going to start with installing the lead screw nut fasteners.
Yeah, it's working.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for checking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even YouTube chat is there. Ooh.
If anything
And
comes
like,
up, if anybody wants to let me know any questions that might come up in there that I should answer, I would
the
really.
latency is actually not bad.
Awesome. Why is that not catching? There we go. There we go. Up. So we should get through the gantry, completing the gantry, getting it belted, and install the bed components today. I haven't yet put the heater or magnet on the build plate, so I'll do that off camera, but we'll get it bolted to the printer today. And then on these lead screw nuts, you want to tighten them down till they touch, so there's no vertical play, but they get just a hair of horizontal play. So I also had to rearrange my, let's see, my area here a little bit because the shelf and the RC car rack were in the way. So now I can move the printer around without banging into stuff.
I have a few of those GE5C from Igus, I think
Hmm.
from Fermio, and they actually seem pretty stiff
Yeah,
to move. They're like really hard to move. Is that how it's supposed to be?
yeah, they are. So that's what I'll be using in this build.
Uh-huh.
This is the IGUS version.
Mm-hmm.
On the dev printer, I use the metal ones from AliExpress.
Yeah, because
They're
if you try to move it with your fingers, it's,
it
well,
it will
almost
be tough,
impossible.
and that's okay. It doesn't. It won't move much on the printer. I mean, ideally, it's not going to move at all, right?
No, yeah.
Where's the in 3x12s? I bought enough of the IGUS ones to try them out on a V2 spherical Z setup as well. I have the green V2 here has the AliExpress metal ones, and it's working good. I
Is
had
there a real difference between a standard V2 mount versus these?
not a lot. I couldn't really tell a huge difference in the horizontal play between the spec setup and these. Um, I think it's more a matter of see if these cause any problems.
I know those joints where the gantry sits on them. Some people sand it down and put a little bit of lube on it.
Yeah, I hadn't done that on any of mine,
Mm-hmm.
but what I did do is I had already had a bunch of 0.9 degree steppers on on hand, so I built the Z on this with those 0.9 steppers, and I had huge amounts of gantry sag um,
With point
with
nine?
this, huh?
With point nine?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I swapped to the spec 1.8 LDO steppers, and that went completely away. It hardly sags at all on power off now.
I think I may be building a Trident as well once I finish the 2.4. I have already I think I snagged the like last frame from Fermio for 1.8.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they
I
don't have any more, or didn't have after I received mine. And my dad has a saw, and he has this drill, uh, pretty bad as one, so it will be easy to cut and make the holes.
yeah. The modification isn't bad.
Yeah,
Um,
the only problem I found identifying which extrusions actually need to be changed, because the manual that is currently for converting 1.8 assumes that the frame is complete, not that you have individual extrusions. So I'm thinking maybe it will be easy to assemble the frame
yeah.
and then go according to the manual and mark them.
So one of the guys in the on Discord posted a diagram in the
Hmm.
V1 and Trident's questions that seems to help
Hmm.
with some of that confusion. I
And
don't.
it uses fewer extrusions than 1.8.
Yeah, because the backpack is gone.
Oh,
So
true.
and the bed frame is much simpler.
Hmm.
So the bed frame where it was composed of 4 extrusions before is just 2.
Mm.
So I'm gonna leave this over here since we should get to that today. And then the X carriage extrusion. So let's switch back. Okay, so I put the finished the Z carriage assembly by installing the bolts and nuts for those. Let's look at, let me minimize this and switch over to the manual. So we're gonna work on the x-axis. So assemble the XY joints and the X carriage. So I'll let's move down. Start with the X carriage. Printer out of the way for now. And this guy, X carriage parts. XY joints, there we go. That should be the majority of what we need at the moment.
So why does the Trident use the MGN12 instead of two MGN9s? Is it just simplify the BOM, or is it more stable?
It does. It's for a few reasons. It simplifies the BOM. It simplifies assembly. The lining up the two MGN9s was a pain point. So I'm looking for a tool. And also it's easier to get a high quality, or at least a well working, I guess, MGN12 than an MGN9. So the common thing was, or at least the saying was, if you wanted to do a single MGN9 before, you really had to have a high quality rail in order to make that happen. To be feasible, it's a lot easier to get an MGN12 that's going to work well.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm scrambling, kind of looking for, is I have a small file that I failed to locate before stream, sorry. But I use it to make sure all of my mating surfaces on my printed parts are nice and cleaned up. So bear with me while I rummage through the absolute mess that is off camera, trying to find it. I may have put it in the other garage. I'll be back in like 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that. Just a little small file that I use to just run across the mating surfaces to get rid of any of the little plastic bumps, make sure that they can mate together appropriately. So we'll just go through and do all the... So the XY joints, you have to be really careful doing this because there are some built-in spots for the bearings. So I won't hit that surface, but I will hit this MGN9 carriage surface. Yeah, so that surface there is, so you get across these.
Is it Trident time?
It is Trident time. Slowly but surely. Okay, let's switch to the manual. We've got a few heat set inserts to put in. And more little piece. I think that's it. Okay, heat sets. See, Adam at, what is it, Vector 3D made his neat little heat set insert jig. Thought that was neat, but this seems to work okay. Is there any feedback coming in from the YouTube stream?
No,
That's
not
good.
much.
Are there any viewers?
Yeah,
How many people are watching?
3.
Yeah, that. Unlisted and only showing on the from the link on the thing. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, 3 people. Yeah, I was watching Adam's stream. Actually, it was pretty funny.
Listening here and watching there.
No, Adam's. The yesterday what he made. The stream
Oh, right.
for building
Hmm.
Voron. Yeah, that heatsert press is actually really nice. And this is with almost every YouTuber who encounters heatsert inserts, he was like found it very satisfying. It's so funny.
Okay. Let's see. XY joints and bearing stacks. What do we have here? This guy. And 4. And a couple of those.
The endless discussion: shoulder or just a screw? I mean bolt versus pins.
Oh, for I like the idea of the pins, or at least a screw with a much longer shoulder, but I don't think that's in the spec. But this, I haven't had any problems that I could attribute to this either. Let's switch over here. Which one is this?
So it's not that big of a deal breaker using just a regular M5.
All of mine have been M5s. Like I said, pre-Voron, I did a whole list of a whole set of mods for the Hypercube Evolution that used 5mm rod as the for all the bearings. I wouldn't mind revisiting that. I just haven't had felt an actual need to do so. One, Are you guys watching the? Okay, so manual. Okay, so throw all those in there. And 5 nuts. Okay, so let's. And then the 2 idlers. I'm using Gates idlers, but the Pouch ones and all those work just fine as well. Then this just gets tightened. The idler one just gets tightened until it bottoms out. Okay, not till it bottoms out, till it still spins freely, and that's fine.
What problem could cause if you use incorrect tooth on idlers like the MXL or some other?
You would, if it's not the correct profile for the belt, then
Oh, profile. Yes.
you'd experience increased wear.
How does it demonstrate usually?
What's that?
How does it demonstrate? Are you get slipping or?
You would probably see some belt powder. I don't know how different MXL is.
It depends on where that pulley is. If it's a drive pulley, you can actually see artifacts in your prints.
Okay.
If it's just one to go around the corner, it's primarily belt wear. So you see the belt fraying and you see like little particles everywhere. The chance of inducing artifacts in the print, less so, but an MXL pulley on like the stepper to drive the belt, that's bad news.
Ah, okay, I see.
And like 90% of the GT2 that you can buy on Amazon aren't actually GT2, that's MXL, just mislabeled.
And what about those pouch that they sell? Those should be okay?
Those are okay. They aren't 100% GT2, because GT2 is like proprietary to Gates, but they are basically identical for our purposes.
Oh, okay. And was there actually, or is there any visible difference between using bearing stack versus like proper idler? I think this
The
is also one
jury
of
is
the
still
questions.
out on that. Some that run like genuine Gates idlers, they swear by them. Others run plain bearings and say they're fine. Probably don't see, I guess you don't see much difference. Like Gates actually specs, yes, you can use a smooth surface, but that would basically be around 40 teeth, like of size, so quite it's larger than what we have, but evidence shows it's kind of works.
If you look closely at the picture on the Trident page at Voron Design, that's my printer, and I used a bearing stack for the idlers on that. But I have a mixture. It just depended on what I had and whether I wanted to order new idlers or not. My green V2 here has Gates idlers. The purple Trident has bearing stack, and my other V2 has Gates idlers. I've had on my original V2, I've swapped back and forth, and I haven't noticed any print quality differences.
Yeah, pretty much the
So,
same. I mean, it might reduce belt life, but it's not like with the MXL where you actually get like chafing on the belt.
Oh,
And
good to
honestly, if
know.
those belts live 5,000 hours, which they likely do, then, well, they've earned their keep.
okay, so got both XY joints assembled. Let's see where we're at. Well done there. Okay. So we're gonna temporarily assemble the X carriage just to seat the M3 nuts, but we will eventually end up pulling this apart when we install the belts. Three by 40, 3 by 30, but I think it's useful to use the M3 by 40 on both of these to get the nuts seated, especially so on the, okay, this is the right side of the X carriage. This lower nut has to go in further because there's a spot there for the magnet for a Hall effect sensor. Therefore, the 30 millimeter I don't think actually reaches to pull that nut into place. So it's
Yeah,
helpful.
you can always use the screw to insert that nut.
Yep, and that's exactly what I'm describing. So it's easier to grab the 40 millimeter temporarily to pull that.
Yeah, but even to push inside.
Oh, got it. So I'm just pulling that nut in with the, till it very gently bottoms out. Go. And do the same for the top one, but it won't take as long.
This is normal or nylog?
Those are normal nuts.
Oh.
And that one was quick and easy. Okay, let's see where we're at. I'm also not going to install the inductive probe at this point. Okay. Nuts for the X extrusion. M5 T-nuts. I think everything here is M5. Where did I put them? There they are. She's in on the end since there's no reason not to. One each on the bottom. And then threes for the MGN12 rail. Yeah, that one's gonna go in the junk pile. quality control on any of these T-nuts is it varies. I've got a small pile of them that I don't think are going to work well, so I'll send those back for checking. There we go.
Hmm. Small pile. Okay, I have like 400 of them now.
What do we have here? Oh, I put one too many here. That's why it wasn't lining up. There we go.
Put T-nuts on every second hole?
Yep.
Or some other amount?
I do second hole starting from the ends. And
Mhm.
then for this particular setup, that leaves 2 in the middle that don't have T-nuts. What am I actually showing? There we go. According to the manual, we're using 6 there in that general configuration. Let's see, we put that on, and I do have the printed parts this time. The rail guides. Same ones I printed and used on my switchwire build. Okay. Building this out of these little plastic baggies because I had marked them all for the number of fasteners I expect to need. So just since I'm doing an actual build here, it seems easy to just to double check all of our numbers.
I actually just went ahead and picked up some Harbor Freight bins, just put them all in there and labeled them as cheap as they are.
Oh yeah, for sure. Is that the kind of like the Stanley bins or like the Acro Mills, like
They're
wall of
kind of
drawers?
like the Stanley ones where you got the double clips in the front and then
Oh yeah.
hinges open.
I think those from Harbor Freight are closer to the Stanley version than their little drawers are, like these type drawers.
Yeah, I have never liked those little drawers like that because they always end up trying out and cracking and breaking.
The Acro Mills ones are not a problem. I have some that I've had for 15 plus years, and they're still pliable and great. But I know exactly what you mean. A lot of those are terrible.
I've got like great big bins out in my shop that I use, like you would see it like a Fastenal or something, that the metal drawers that are like
Mm-hmm.
8 inches wide by about a foot deep, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, let's see where we're at. So I'm gonna wait to tighten the MGN 12 rail until I get the 2 XY joints on. One note here for Trident, I spec'd adding a washer here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but for the M5x30, and there's labeled an M5 shim. They're just the stack up of things. Adding material to the printed part wasn't feasible, so that's why that is there, and you won't see it in the, or at least you won't see it yet in the 2.4 manual. But it'll come. It'll get changed. So let's get these installed.
When I was building my V18, I had a big question like, how tight is tight enough? Because there is no specs for torque or anything like that in the manual, and it's hard to say
I don't think
how much tightened they should be.
any plastic parts, you shouldn't be deforming the plastic to tighten it. I don't know how to quantify it. I mean, that right there is usually where I would stay, and you didn't see me put any real strain on it.
You just kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah.
You get rid of those developed built-in torque wrenches in your wrist.
I think if there's only so much torque you can put on with a typical screwdriver. I just wouldn't hulk down on it. So 16.
Yeah, I suppose it feels a little bit different when you have a Allen key that is a bit longer and has a lever.
That's a good point. You have much more of a lever on those. Where is my M5x30s? There they are. The last two of these. Okay.
I heard you or somebody say something about nylocks.
Mm-hmm.
There's no places to actually use the nylocks, is there?
We use nylocks for the Z carriage, the Z nut to the Z carriage.
Oh, okay.
So
and that continues through onto the 2.4 as well, or no?
No, just on Trident because because of you don't want to tighten those up. You don't want to completely tighten those. You want to leave them just loose enough so there's no vertical play, but there's a little bit of horizontal play.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't remember nylocks in my bomb when I did all my fasteners, and I was going, maybe I missed something.
Right.
We used nylocks in 2.2, but we ran away from those. The problem is if they're sitting in like ABS, the torque that you need to like probably screw to the lock part of the nylock actually rounds out the hole, and then you're stuck with a screw that you can't remove.
Yep.
So you can't fasten it properly to where it works, and you can't get it out, and the printed part is ruined. So especially if it's like a part that holds plastic in compression, the normal nut will do fine.
Oh, interesting. So then use normal. Okay.
Okay.
By the way, I see that there are no nut traps being used at all for those square nuts in Voron.
Correct. We use heat set inserts instead.
Yeah, I know.
I seen that little jig press that the Vector made up. That thing's actually pretty slick.
Yeah. Especially if you have an old ender or something, you can take apart, sacrifice for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. Those installed. Oh, we get to put it on the printer. Okay, let me clear out some space here. Set this over here for a second. Stuff out of the way. Printer back up here. This might be easier. Do this upside down.
You find those amp feet give it a better support than like the cup style?
Yeah, I like them. It's not so critical on the Trident, but something like that on a V2 really helps it from sagging in the back. The weight on the back of a V2 caused the compressor feet to sag. So we didn't tighten the XY joint specifically because we need to be able to adjust the width to match your Y carriages, your Y rails. So what do we have here? 3x16, right? It's these guys. Oh, M3x20? Is that what it is? M3x16s. Nope. Where'd they go? Six. Done.
That's why I had to do the bin. I didn't want to have to look for bags.
Yeah, in my bins are wonderful, but like I said, I wanted to quickly, and I've got all my other bins full. That's okay. This isn't too bad. Okay, so this is upside down. So this side, I don't know, what am I showing you guys? Okay, so this side is the Hall effect side. So we are going to just put the two fasteners over here for now, or the end stop side, I should say. I'm not going to use the Hall effect setup on this printer, although I've used it on every other one of both my V2s and the other Trident.
And the end-stop PCB will work as well?
Yes. Yep. And I'm just kind of lightly tightening these. Because this is kind of the first step in making sure we don't end up with a racked carriage. So I'm going to turn this back over. I like to view this because I get a better view from the back side of the printer. Okay, so, and I kind of the X extrusion, making sure it's centered after the XY joints are bolted to the carriages. And then over here on the end stop side where your wires come through, if the extrusion is too far this way, then you're going to have a hard time getting your wires through there. So I'm just going to shift the whole thing, which may mean making sure all of these are loose enough. Shift the whole thing over there so we don't have problems with running our wires through there, just like that. Now with everything, kind of push it against the rear as a reference. Just kind of just snug. Not even final tightening. And then the same with the M3s on to the carriages. And then no binding across the whole travel. The bearings and the rails don't feel different at any point. It's hitting at the same time on both sides. We're good. So all of those are somewhat tight. Oops, that's what I did. I knew I did something wrong. I need to remove these screws because the cable chain bridge goes here. I think I've done that every single time I've built one of these printers. Five by 16s instead of 10s. And then the chain bridge, and I'm going to be using IGUS chains on this, so the 2-hole version. And I'm going to just confirm by tightening those down with it at the end of travel.
Sizes are the same as for version 2? The
Exactly.
10 by 11 and
Yes.
the other is 10 by
Yep.
15, I think.
No. So for the gantry, it's all 10 by 10, 10 by 11, depending if you're doing the generic ones or the IGUS. For the Z, V2 uses a 10 by 15. Trident uses the same 10 by 10 or 10 by 11.
Oh.
You have far fewer wires running through the Z chain on a Trident because all the gantry wires run through the Z chain on a V2. So you only, for Trident, you only have to worry about the bed power, thermistor, end stop, and ground.
Do you replace those with PTFE wires as well, or leave the original?
I have not, because the movement on Z is so small and slow. I would leave that up to you, and I don't know what our official recommendation is in the documentation, but I have used the Kinovo wires that come with it to this point. Okay. And there, so the cable chain bridge is installed. And I've squared the gantry. Now we're on to, are we belting it? Ah, we're on to belts. Okay. Let's see, where did I put all my belts? So I am assuming that I have enough belt to do this. I think so. I have a couple of, I didn't buy new belts for this. I used what I have from other builds. And at some point I bought a lot of extra, so I think we're fine. This MGN12 setup. So the reason I did not assemble the carriage yet is I am going to assemble half of it at a time. So I'm probably going to go through this a couple of times because I always mix myself up on which direction is easiest to route these belts, but we'll just go with it and see what happens. So in 3x8s for the MGN12. So like I said, we based this and basically used all of the community mod for the MGN12 setup. One of the caveats to using the community mod before was because of the spacing for the X carriage and keeping the nozzle position the same between the MGN9 setups or not, there is not enough room to put a button or a socket head cap screw. Let me see if I can see that. Let me get a pointer of some sort. So the only length of screw that works with enough material to grab to support everything is an M3x8. The head of an M3x8 interferes with this little slot which the afterburner motor plate sets in. So before we were able to make additional changes in Trident and everything else moving forward, the recommendation was to get another unique fastener button head cap screw. and then there's room. We try to minimize the number of unique fastener in the build. So the change that was made for on Afterburner is simply to add, and I don't know if I have the piece here, to add a clearance for those for the socket head cap screws. Did that make sense? Hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I am going to attach one side. There we go. One side of the carriage. If I can get this. What do I got going on here? I'm dropping stuff. Am I not hitting that? There we go. Now loosen it up and throw the end of the belt in there. There we go. So then the belt just barely pokes out on that side, and that'll hold it in place. Now we can take the rest of it and string it through. So I do one belt first, get a length, cut both to the same length, and then reinstall. So I probably have way too much belt here, but that's
Is
a good.
this clamping the belt against the carriage?
It
like
does.
in the original mod?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So no changes there.
Correct. Let me see if I can remember what changes I made. So let's see on this piece. So the changes I made were I relocated the the spot for the Hall effect magnet. It was 4 millimeters too far back, and I'm not sure what the source of that error is. But I put it in the proper location. I rotated the hex nut orientation that would go in there to match the other hex nut. It was 60 degrees off. I mean, basically points up or flats up. I adjusted the position of the top M3 such that there should be exactly a line width of material above. I think there was just under or just over, and I just wanted it to be exactly 0.4 millimeters, so that a very small fractional change in the position of the screw. On the back, I opened up the area around the spot for an optional end stop switch. I did not include the non-switch piece because, frankly, you never see it once it's on the printer, and I didn't want to confuse PIF and other people with multiple parts that they would need to print. So no matter which setup you're going with, you're going to have a spot for a switch here, whether you populate it or not. And then for the wires for that switch, I opened them up. If not there, I definitely opened them up on the inside just to maximize being able to sneak past whatever probe you use. And that was, I believe, the only, I tried to get as much space for where the probe goes vertically as possible, trying to get enough space for the PL series of probes, but they're just, you run into you're too tight to the screws in the carriage. So still the recommendation is to avoid the PL08 or PL05 probes. Now, if you use a Mosquito hot end, there should be enough room because it sits lower. The nozzle sits lower than, say, the Dragon, or I think maybe even the V6. So. Yeah, I think I'm going about this backwards from where I normally would. But let's find out. And I've got here. I know I've got way more than I need, so that very end of it's just a little too curly from sitting rolled up, so I'm gonna hopefully save myself some headache there. Like cutting off a couple inches. Uh-oh. How did I get that back? Sorry about the noise. This is twisted. There we go. So how far are you, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name, or at least your Discord name, from your V2 build? Insanity, or who's that? Sanity, not Insanity, Sanity.
Insanity may be actually correct. Yeah. Oh, pretty far.
Pretty far. You've been around forever.
Forever? No, I started only like end of May. That's
Okay.
not forever.
Well, that feels like forever.
Oh yeah.
How far are you?
Sorry. Need to finish printing parts.
I'm basically done at this point.
On a V2?
No, with my Trident.
Oh, that's Jared.
That is Jared.
Your Trident looks good. I like it.
Thank you. I posted a couple of updated pics in the build area. I put the doors on, top panel, back panel. Waiting on a little more foam tape to put the side two panels on, but everything else is good. All the LEDs are installed. Yeah.
Did you see that? I got that through there the first time.
Luck. It's because I showed up. Although I did show up and you were talking about probing and screwing, so I mean, you can't blame me for being quiet during that port.
Nope.
No probing and screwing for me, please, and thank you.
How is has it been quiet on the YouTube side? Continuing to be quiet? And what are you guys seeing? Let me make sure. Okay.
Oh, you're dual streaming.
I am.
Aha.
Well,
and still no stream beats. I am disappointed.
I know. I forgot about that. That'll have to be the update for the next stream. Every stream I add a little bit of capability, right? Upgrade.
Hey, it gives everybody something to look forward to, right?
Knocking stuff all over.
I just finished my Trident conversion, waiting on a quickie probe to reprint, but I'll be pushing plastic with that one today.
Awesome. So coming.
Oh yeah, the clicky is the way to go.
So conversion from a 1.8?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, 220 is now minus a bad probe print that I had that wasn't sitting flush, ready to go.
Awesome. Okay, where are we at? Nope, wrong way. Okay. Oh, there it is. Did I get that right? I think so. All of this just to get a belt length.
Not a belt length. The belt length.
The belt length.
On both.
Yep.
Real hard to make it even on both if you don't do one, pull it out, and then measure the other.
Yep.
We should make a jig for that.
Yeah.
Like some kind of fake gantry.
No, a stepper motor with a 20-tooth pulley that turns exactly X rotations and pulls exactly the correct amount of belt through.
Fancy. Okay.
The other thing that I suggest doing, which Steve, you probably already do, set your idlers in the middle position so that you have a little bit forward and a little bit back, just in case. When you run your belts for length, that is
Right.
to say.
Yep. Right now they're all the way back because that makes it easier to run, but when I go to tighten it is when I do all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can get at least some level of. Okay, so this is ran. I've checked, and it is not riding up on any of the bearing stacks, so this should be about right. And I go for, I'll trim this, do another final trim, but I just make sure that I have a couple inches of extra belt, and that's plenty here. You don't need a whole lot. So I'm just eyeballing this, and I'm going to cut it. Then I end up with probably enough belt for maybe a switch wire or something. Luckily, here, let's see, maybe I have another thing of belt that I can use. Nope, that's 9mm. See what I have in my. I have a box of belt. Make sure I don't have something else I could use before I tear into the longest length I have. Okay. Okay, so this is approximately how long it needs to be, so now I get to pull it all the way out. I wish it installed that quick. What's left on yours, Jared?
That's eating a chip.
People. Damn, this chat is full.
What's that?
This chat is kind of full.
Awesome. There is
you're building that again. Sorry.
Yep. No worries.
I just realized I'm going to be on video, and I feel like I'm interrupting now. Sorry about that.
You're doing fine. No worries.
It looks good though.
This is supposed to be a chat and hangout. As long as everybody's okay with what they're saying is recorded, then we are good.
As far as what's left on mine, literally just the left and right side panels. I do have to do the exhaust area since I'm not doing an exhaust, put another block out. And then all my electronics are done, my configuration's done. So that's pretty much it. It's already printing, so serial request was already done. I was just doing some of the buttoning up stuff today. I got my top lights installed, which are ridiculously bright.
Nice. I have all the stuff printed to do. I have enough of these printed to do the green V2 and this Trident, so.
Nice. I actually used aluminum extrusions for mine. I know I've posted about it quite a few times, but I like the heat sink capabilities of it.
Yeah,
especially when you're using 3 strips of cob LEDs per side. Total power use on the LEDs, just on the top ones on mine, are probably pretty close to about 15 watts.
I should probably check to see the strip that I'm using.
For those of you not aware, 15 watts of LED lighting is a lot of light.
Okay, now we get to do it again. Only twice. Oh.
Unless you really screw it up, then it's 3 times.
Well, if I really screw it up, it could be more.
Well, let's hope not.
Give it a little bend there. Pull it through here. Bend the other way. Look at that, first time twice in a row. Okay, so I'm gonna snag this in the carriage just to hold it in place. Just like that. Just give this a little kind of pre-bend the end in the direction I want it to go. There we go. And then pointing out the little extra plastic here, trying to keep people from misrouting these belts, because the common mistake is to accidentally route this belt around here, causing all kinds of trouble.
Myself, matter of fact.
Hmm?
I've done that myself, as a matter of fact. The really interesting part is it doesn't cause issues until you've been printing for a little while.
until
the plastic gets warmed up from
heats
the
up.
friction on the belts.
Yep.
And then once it gets friction, you'll start losing steps and jumping and all the rest of it.
That one is in, and then I'm going to do same thing, other side. Belts. Partially tighten down the other side of the carriage to hold it, because if I went this way to make it easy, I mean, this is a pain point for me. Anytime I belt one of these printers is getting the belt through the front idlers. And the direction I went, as you guys just saw, seems to be the easiest to push through the outer access point in past the idler and then back through using the frame as your to push the belt back. So since it was easy going that way, you got to go the opposite way for the other one. And I'm just gonna grab that. This is not where the final belt is gonna end up, but it's good enough for this. Oops, that was dumb. Go to the top one. There we go. And tighten that down. idler. Here. Make sure we got the belt all straight. Let's see. Go right behind the belt and then use the frame as the guide. 3 times first time. Here. And back. And then, so the knot to go through here. See the common problem on this side. Bend that for a little bit of okay. These 25 tooth pulleys make it a little tougher to make that bend. There we go. And home free. There we go. Okay, so now that I have both of these routed, I'm going to take this side of the carriage back off. I'll pull both of these about the same length. This side, I'm going to loosen the carriage and put the belt in exactly the same distance that the other one is, and give it just snug. Both screws in. Now both of these should tighten up, assuming all of everything is matching or riding on the bearing stacks properly. And it feels like they are. And they are the same, I can't really see, but they are the same length. So now this guy gets clamped just like that, with plenty of room to tweak things. So I'm going to throw the 3x8s in here. Kind of held in place. These are not tightened yet. Just kind of hold things in place. And then what Jared had mentioned earlier is make sure that right now the idlers I have in the full rear position would be the full, the loosest. Is that right? We're going to put these, I don't go all the way to the middle, but about the middle. just to give a little bit of room when you need to service anything later.
To be honest, I've also seen people get them too tight initially just from pulling them there and then tightening the carriage down.
Right.
And then if you do that, you don't have any adjustment on the outside either. So.
And at this point is when I put the screws, the screws that hold the carriage part halves together. Just making sure everything lines up. Okay. Now everything can be kind of snug down. That's it. Now, the final racking adjustment, making sure that we are not binding anywhere. All of our belt paths are seated in the bearing stacks. Everything's looking good. The amount of belt is the exact same coming out here, so I've got a little bit of movement on this side, which means this side ends up getting tightened. I just kind of run it through travel, equalize stuff. And then they're both touching at the same time now. Then these could be cut just a little bit shorter and still have enough service length, and then just kind of rolled around and tucked in. I'll cut those later. We won't get to the tool head today. I think I need to do some design work still for the LGX that I'm going to put on. I took Nemgria's LGX adapter and did some tweaks to it and made it one piece, and then did the adjustments that are required for it to work with those socket head cap screws I was talking about. So it sits right on here now. So, okay, so I neglected the manual for almost all of that. So let's see where we actually are. So talking about the belt path, where they go, how they're routed. Carriage, okay.
Yeah, this extension is very neat.
The what?
The belt section, that is really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, Dunars does such a good job on these manuals and the screenshots, and just the whole style works well. Okay, now we get to install the print bed. And where are we at? An hour and a half in? That's not too bad. So like I said, I am not ready to put the heater or magnet on it. I'll do that before the next stream, but we'll do the assembly, and then I'll just install the magnet and heater pad after. So this is all talking about putting those on the heat bed, and the wiring we'll do later. You guys are still seeing the manual. Yep. Okay. So the Z-endstop, I'm going to use Hart's Z-endstop board. So this guy, I've already installed it in the housing, and it's just a little PCB that gets sandwiched in there for a connector, And the micro switch, you might be able to see down in there. I am terrible about where I place this. There we go. So that is already assembled. On every one of my other printers, I've done the spec setup that's described here in the manual, with bending over the leads and soldering to a 3-pin JST. Hearts uses a 2-pin, but that's fine. It goes to the same pins. Okay, the bed frame is, I pre-assembled it on my kitchen counter, my quartz counters. So that we're going to leave right there. That's already assembled. And now we're going to pre-install a bunch of hardware. Okay, what do we have? All M5s and a couple of M3s. Gonna bottom, put this in here. Let's put the M3s in first. So M3s are for the bed itself, mount points. The rest of these should be M5s. And I have them, let's see, what are you guys seeing? So I specified that they oppose, the short side of the T-nuts oppose each other on these for the fronts, and they're in line with each other on the rear. And Dunnar made a call out there, which is nice, because this is important for the rear. If you see there in the manual, for the rear side, there was a last minute change to accommodate these alternate, better fitting T-nuts, but they vary quite a bit in length. And the way I had this before had the long sides butted up against each other, and at the extreme of what these T-nuts were, it wasn't working, so just shifted that. Okay. All of those installed, not too many of them. Cool. We get to install the spherical bearings, whether you get the GE5Cs or the IGUS. Today I'm using the IGUS, and that is these guys. I don't think I have one of the other version to show, but there, and there. So these should just simply press by hand into the printed piece, and then we're securing them with 3x6. Oh, that I just spilled all over the place. Fun. Button heads. And these just
They screw into plastic?
They just thread into plastic because there's no load on them whatsoever. And you just tighten them until they touch. These don't get tightened. All they're doing, so this is going to sit on the end. This is going to sit here on the end of the bed. Your load is always going to be pushing up on them. So all they are doing is just making sure that bearing stays in the plastic. No load whatsoever. I think I only dropped one on the floor. And there is, and if you look at the CAD, there is a 0.2 millimeters between the side of the bearing and the plastic. So these M3x6s should not be bottomed out on the plastic. They should be touching. I don't know, there's no way for that, but they should touch the bearing, but not get fully tightened. I expect that if you fully tighten the IGUS ones, you would deform the bearing. You won't deform the metal ones, so it's more critical with these plastic IGUS bearings. That's it. And I pre-installed this one, just test fitting it. I dropped more of these than I thought. Okay. Front ones, and then I need one more. For the rear. Oh, there they are. Okay. What's the manual say? Do not over tighten. That's what we talked about. Now we're going to install them on the bed frame with M5x10s. Rear. Put it on. Okay, so then we can put them on. Okay. So take our frame here and install these. Where did I put my... I don't know where I put my M5x10 screws. Unless I ran out of them, and that would mean I've got a bad count of them. 5x16. Okay, well, we're not going to slow this down. One screw. See, these are those Acro Mills bins I was talking about, but I made a insert so I can get more use out of them. So none of these we want to tighten fully yet. They'll need to be shifted to line up with the carriages on the printer. At this point, we can set this thing in here. Get most of these at some. Okay, and then in 5x16 and 5 nuts to put them on. So with all of these somewhat loose, just to make sure we can shift things around to make sure everything lines up. Five nut. And no washers or anything, just straight into the One nice thing about this setup is just the ease of pulling the bed assembly apart. I mean, it's these three bolts and then some wires, and you can pull your whole bed out. Okay, there we go. And that's why we leave them loose, because I had to shift that part on there. Everything's good. Everything's centered. Everything is about the same height. Ideally, so let's do this how you probably really should do this. Let's make sure all these are loose, and then take all of this down to closer to the bottom of the printer. Is everybody still there? It's been awfully quiet.
Yeah, my little dude woke up.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
Also just makes it a little easier to eyeball that it's all really close to all the same height. Okay. Where are we at? So install those. Loosen and retighten. That's what we just did. Now the bed can be installed. Oh, that's what we forgot, but we can put those in later. The T-nuts for the Z-endstop. Okay. I like, for my 250 builds, I like to use the Prusa, the Mark III textured sheets, because they're really nice. I don't think anybody does textured build surfaces, in my opinion, as good as Prusa does. So my 250 here is set up to only use these. So I did similar on this, and I had a bed made with 2 extra holes here for screws to act as end stops for the notches on the rear of a Prusa bed sheet. So, and then I had the corners chamfered because there are no tabs on the front of a Prusa bed sheet. So that allows me to grab it from the side to take it off. So this is what I'll be using for my build. I will be putting a full coverage of the magnet on here with holes for these locating pins, so I can put on a larger sheet if I want to. But I really like the Prusa textured sheet, so that's what I go with.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and they are actually more easily available than 250 by 250.
Exactly.
Steel plates.
And I've owned 2 Mark IIIs, so I have a bunch of surfaces. I ordered over the course of my printing hobby life. I've ordered blank sheets from like BuildTech that I can put just PEI on. So I have a wide variety of surfaces that I can use on here by using those Prusa sheets. Okay, the little M4 nuts for the installing the bed.
But then you probably can't use the whole size because I think the surface is like 230 by 250 or something like that.
Yep. So I that is the sacrifice. Thank you for pointing that out because that is important if anybody was listening to me and wanting to do similar. The drawback is that the Prusa sheet, although it has holes in the front here, which you'd have to print around, and then the notch in the back. So it's what, 254 by, I guess I can get a ruler.
210 or something.
230 or something like that, or maybe 235.
Yeah, Prusa's build area, I think they say is 210 or whatever, but the actual sheet, I can print all the way back into this area and get the 235 or whatever out of it. I mean, reality is I very rarely print anything that's outside of that area. And then I have the 300 builds I can I can throw that at. Okay, so these little thumb nuts that we use as spacers, I know, or if you've seen Mandela Roseworks in their channel, they've been talking about a little kinematic setup for the 2.4 and Trident, which is a great way, I think, to do kinematic on this printer, because then you're accounting for bed temperature, which I don't know how much that is actually a problem or not, but if you were concerned about it, then that would be the way to do it on the mounts between the bed frame and the bed rather than out here, at least in this setup, given the requirements when we set out to build this printer of an easy upgrade path, easy parts availability, easy assembly. Okay, so those use M3 by 16s. And hey, looky there, I have exactly 3 left. So this is probably a fun how to get all this lined up. Okay, so let's barely not tighten, just thread into the T-nut just so we can shift things around. There it is. Is it? Nope. What do I got going on here? Oh, I pushed the T-nut out of the way. There we go. This one. Oops. Wow. These are really easy to dislodge. Okay. This is a bit finicky. What is going on? Oh, I keep dislodging the T-nut. I keep making it come out of alignment with the. There we go. Okay.
I found it easier to put the bed on without spacers first and align all the knots and even start the screws there to make sure they're aligned, then take the screws out and put the spacers on.
That is a great idea. I think it would be easier to align this rear one first too. Okay, so all of those are started. Now we'll just barely touch them down to lock it into place. Okay, so the incomplete bed at least is on there. And I need a couple of M3 T-nuts for the Z-endstop. In there. These would have been better to put in before. Where did I put my, there it is. Okay, so Z-endstop, let me grab a pulley. Find a 20 tooth in here. Somehow, this is my stack of Pouch black pulleys that I collected because when I built my very first V2, that was the last thing I was waiting for. And someone on the flea market had a set that they had available right away. So I bought them from them, and then my Pouch order came in. So now I got a bunch of extras.
A fancy black one.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to see it, but whatever. Pop the ring off. Take out the grub screws. Push it into the part. And I still need to cut myself a piece of 5mm dowel for the end stop, so I'm just going to leave that as it is right now. What does that use? M3x20s. Okay. Oh, there was the M3x6 button head I was missing. Now this is the exact part, Z-endstop as V2. So
Don't lose those grub screws. They're very easy to
Oh yeah.
lose.
Just gonna shift that to line up with the other T-nut. And then this is just general position. Oop. Just so that we can, I guess I probably have, I probably have something that'll at least be a stand-in. That one's a bit too long, but there we go. That one's not too bad.
Yeah, on the top of the end stops, I'm using the Heart Case 6 bolt on mine, and it does mostly fit. Just needs a little trimming, depends on the size of your bed.
Oh,
But
okay.
that does actually work nicely too.
So what is that? Because I've seen pictures of it. I've seen, but I haven't actually, I don't know exactly the details around it. Can you explain?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah. So it's basically just like your end stop pod there, except instead of having just a dowel in there, which can pop out, it's an adjustable. It's got a M4 screw on the bottom, and then the top piece threads into that. So it's captured on both sides. It won't pop out if you flip the printer over. And because it's tying into a screwed bolt, you can adjust the actual height of the end stop.
Okay. What keeps, if it's screwed and adjustable, what keeps it from adjusting over time?
Probably nothing, but there definitely is some good friction in there.
There is. Okay. I'll have to look at that closer. Like I said, I've seen it, but I didn't really follow through on seeing what it was about. Okay. At some point, I plan on, I just bought one of those mini metal lathes. At some point, I plan on cutting grooves in the in that end stop rod and then running a M4 screw. I know, is it an M4 by 8 or something? Will bottom out on the outside of the pulley and intrude into the pin area by just enough to where that should work. Okay, so we are at the after.
I did.
What?
I literally just filed a flat at the spot where the switch actually was. Used a grub screw with some purple Loctite on it, and got it in a spot where it sits in nicely but doesn't come back out.
Yeah, the Loctite's
Took
a
all
good
about
idea.
5 minutes.
Loctite's a good idea.
And the purple stuff works fine for that, since it's not going to be in a position where it's like constantly having forces against it.
So at this point, we are at the afterburner installation in the manual. So I think right at 2 hours, or just under 2 hours, is probably a pretty good time to call this. I won't be using a standard afterburner in this build. I'll be using the LGX setup. So this guy with the afterburner adapter. I will probably also be installing the ABBN cooling shroud setup for this. So I've got all those parts printed. I've taken to liking, I don't know if it comes across on camera, but I've started doing Hilbert curve on the first layer of this. I think it turns out pretty nice. Gives it a little bit of extra texture. So, hides any inconsistencies in that first layer. So from there, just like last time, I'm going to stick around once I stop streaming, stop recording. So anybody in Discord who wants to continue to chat, feel free. But thanks again for watching. I hope some of this information is useful. See how far we can get next time. And realistically, the most likely stream time is probably next weekend. I had hoped to do a stream before and get this build done in printing, but that's okay. This is a good pace. So thanks again. I'm going to stop streaming.